In 2019, which in retrospect was not ideal timing to quit a job in corporate innovation and establish an organization called Proudly Human, but I have made some headway towards implementing the Off-World project, which I will talk to you about today. So the idea with the Off-World project is it's a series of habitation experiments in some of the most extreme environments on Earth, in preparation for the first cruise arriving to Mars, cruise returning to the moon or beyond Mars, but also importantly for me, coming from South Africa, towards poverty alleviation and towards addressing human communities who already live in extremely harsh conditions on Earth. So we've chosen a few kind of categories of location, and I managed to, we will make a documentary series about all of this as well. In case some of you are interested in volunteering to be part of the crews that go to each of these locations, we did open our applications last year, and you can check more information on that on proudlyhuman.com. But for those of you who are happy to observe from a distance our activities in extreme places on Earth and beyond, the idea, and in fact the trade exchange that we have in place for our technology collaborators, is that we showcase all of the prototypes that we take to these extreme places through a documentary series in partnership with a global broadcaster. We are in pitch phase currently to Nat Geo, Netflix, Discovery, etc. So you'll get to watch in detail, I guess, what we eventually do there, but let me explain more about what we do. So during the lockdown, being in South Africa, I was able to travel to Namibia to do a location scout. And the idea with the deserts is really to look at water management systems. So we will try and endeavor to see how efficient we can be with water management, of course, looking towards places like Mars, which have a lot of aesthetic overlap with Namibia, both of which having large areas that were once under an ocean. So Namibia is actually the oldest desert on Earth at 55 million years old. It was once submerged, so we do see a lot of beautiful parallels with the 4K footage, or the great footage coming back from Mars, and the footage that we collected on this location scout. So water management at the heart of this experiment here. Now, Antarctica, 2019 in December, I had the chance, amazing opportunity to visit this seventh continent for many of us who we may not have had the chance to visit yet. Of course, this was summer. So I kind of took a swim, but a vastly different environment in winter, and that's kind of the location that we are seeking. In some sense, Antarctica is more remote than the space station or even the moon. It's a 5-hour flight from Cape Town, if you can afford it. But once you are there towards the end of summer, you are there effectively for the entire duration of winter, and no ship, no helicopter, no plane, no vessel at all can access the continent during winter. So in terms of the psychology of the isolation of a human community living in a truly extreme place, for the duration of the winter, this is an ideal location for us. I mean, the space station can be evacuated within sort of 24 hours. The moon is just 3 days away. So Antarctica is really a great place to access those psychological aspects in a negative 60 degrees Celsius environment, which conveniently is the average temperature on the surface of Mars from a technology perspective. I'm not going to leave my face so big up for too long, but I did have the chance to visit the Aquarius Reef Base in April this year. And this is currently our only underwater habitat on planet Earth. It sits off Key Largo, around 10 kilometers off the coast, around between 10 and 15 meters under the ocean. It was built in the 80s as an analog for the space station, and NASA and ESA and other astronauts do use it to train. It's like a physical analog of the space station, size-wise, shape-wise. And the analog of being in an environment where the outside atmosphere is not breathable is a great one for us. And in fact, we will attempt to break a world record by living under there for longer than 31 days, which is the current record set by Jacques Cousteau's grandson. And 39 days is our target because maybe you're familiar with Ad Astra, looking at plasma-based propulsion systems out of Houston and Costa Rica. And if we can accelerate at 1G half the way to Mars, decelerate at 1G for the other half, the journey could take as little as 39 days. So we will confine ourselves to this underwater habitat for that period. So what kind of infrastructure are we taking with us? There are, of course, multiple sort of simulation projects for crews in extreme places around the world. So how is ours different? Well, we will arrive with our infrastructure and build it from scratch with the team. So power systems, water systems, food systems, communication systems housed under some kind of shelter where we can regulate and monitor not only the technology, but also the crew themselves. So then the questions of resource management come up. What kind of systems are we going to have in place to both monitor and overview and perhaps make decisions on resource distribution? And I have a session after this on off-world economics for anyone who'd like to discuss that further. And community spirit. So let's assume the systems are working. Let's assume our technology is functional. We have the technology to live in these extreme places and on the moon and Mars and beyond, in my opinion. The critical thing is, how does the team perform under these conditions? And that's a really interesting factor. We'd like to generate a lot of data, from heart rate to urine samples to facial expression recognition, you name it. We'll be collecting every iota of data we can gather from these brave crews, including myself, who will go to these locations. So I'm out of time, but let's reflect that we are from an Eden on Earth, where we have power, water, food, and data basically already built into the system in which we find ourselves. And for those of you who have your feet firmly on the ground, let's remind ourselves we are already in space. And I believe the spirit of exploration is a fundamental one as part of being human. It's a celebration of reality and our place in it. I've been thinking about such things for some time. This is me at age 13, and I'm out of time. So let me leave the rest of the discussion to the off-world economics session. It's a collaborative project, so we test prototypes, we share data, we recruit volunteers for the project. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, please come and chat to me. Thank you very much.